Ash was an orphaned boy who had spent his entire life believing he was good for nothing. When he was just an infant, his mother died after freezing to death on a snowy night. The one who rescued him from that unforgiving blizzard was the head of the Elmheims. The Elmheims are the continent's greatest martial house, having pledged their swords to the royal family as guardians. Sitting at the pinnacle of this house is Roderick Elmheim. After rescuing that little kid from the jaws of death, Roderick became his surrogate father. While growing up in the Elmheim family, Ash was constantly looked down upon for not having wings on his back. You see, wings are a symbolic representation of the magic and power one possesses. The more wing crests you have on your back, the greater your abilities. But since Ash had no magical powers within him, he was dubbed the Wingless. Still, the unfairness of fate didn't keep him down. He continued practicing relentlessly in an attempt to get stronger, holding a firm belief that hard work always pays off. And indeed it did, just not in the way he hoped. He lived his entire life following his father's pointers, doing everything he was told. Yet in the end, he was betrayed. His father wanted him dead. Along with his other sons, they finally ambushed him. The boy tried his best to fight back, but being magicless, he couldn't really go up against his despicable father and his wretched brothers. Eventually he was tied down and pierced through the heart. Before his soul escaped his body, he posed a dying question to his father. Why did he raise him if he wanted him killed to begin with? It was then revealed that his father never intended to have him around. The only thing he wanted was to steal the 7 wings Ash was born with. Now that he had stolen what he raised him for, it was finally time to discard this wingless boy. Of course, Ash wanted Roderick to explain what the hell he was talking about, but the only response he got in return was his merciless brothers stabbing him to death while his father simply walked away. As his consciousness began to fade, he started to feel cold, and soon found himself back among the living. He is currently inhabiting his infant body. He has regressed to the moment when he and his mother were ready to die in the blizzard. Sadly, his mother is already dead in the snow, leaving him behind. Moments later, he hears an entourage of knights looking for his mother under Roderick's command. Their agenda is to retrieve the infant, and that infant is our boy. This sounds all too familiar to Ash. He recalls that in his previous life, he was told he was found on a blizzardy night. This makes him realize that perhaps he has regressed back in time. Realizing he is in danger, the little infant begins crawling his way through the snowfields. The magic exuding from him helps keep his body warm. Dragging himself is way too hard for someone with such a small body, but his will to survive, and his desire not to fall into Roderick's hands, gives him enough willpower to crawl forward. At one point he eventually collapses due to exhaustion. However, he is soon discovered by a man and his daughter. Thankfully, this man isn't Roderick, he is Viscount Highfried. The graceful man crouches down and cradles the kid in his warm embrace, wondering how in the hell an infant ended up in the cold. What the Viscount notices next shocks the hell out of him. The trail carved in the snow clearly indicates that the kid dragged himself across a mountain to reach this point. This unprecedented sight leaves the man wondering about the child's origin. Abruptly, Ash wakes up in shock after getting poked by someone his own age. As it happens, there are a bunch of kids surrounding him, waiting for him to wake up. Now that he is conscious, all the kids grab him and push to take him for themselves, essentially smothering our boy in their tussle. My guy has enough of it and leaps out of everyone's grasp. The other kids have no clue what is happening, so they start giving chase. Involuntarily, Ash ends up using his innate magical abilities, which launch him into the sky, leaving him vulnerable to a free fall. Fortunately, he is caught by the Viscount. It is at this moment our boy finally gets a clear look at the man, only to be shocked when he realizes who it is. It turns out this man is Duke Roderick's older brother, Viscount Highfried. The poor guy is devastated. He crawled all the way through the blizzard only to end up in another house of Elmheim. Here is a little context about Highfried Elmheim. This man rules over the Viscount house, a branch family of the Elmheims. Highfried once stood as one of the twin wings, alongside his younger brother Roderick, entrusted with protecting the royal family. However, Viscount Highfried supposedly met his end while fighting in a civil war. His death apparently led to the downfall of the Viscount house. Seeing this man alive only solidifies Ash's previous assumption about having returned to the past. Though ending up in his enemy's brother's house was something he never even considered, the mistress takes hold of this peculiar child who literally launched himself into the sky using magic. She had doubts that he wasn't a normal boy, and this confirms her suspicions. Even the Viscount thinks that the child harbors immense strength, and the wings etched across his back are living proof of that. The kid has 7 wings on his back. When little Ash realizes that the boy who was once considered wingless is actually the owner of 7 wings, he is stunned. Everything clicks. He finally understands what Roderick meant back then. In his past life, that bastard merely rescued him with the intention of stealing those 7 wings that rightfully belonged to our boy. The thought that he was mocked and looked down upon for being wingless by Roderick is infuriating. Just then, the mistress poses a curious question to the Viscount, wondering what he plans for this kid. The Viscount stands in cold silence, which makes our boy dread the worst. He has been robbed of his wings once, and he doesn't want history to repeat itself. Contrary to what the kid had been dreading, the Viscount shows a very positive attitude toward the child and wants to adopt the infant as his son. Extending his hand, the man pats his newly owned kid to express his affection. He sees this child as a weak fledgling unfamiliar with the ways of worlds, a bird who has yet to learn how to take flight. He decides that until the day the kid learns to soar through the skies with his wings, he will take the responsibility of raising him. Ash's eyes light up upon hearing such sincere words because he can tell they are honest. Eventually, the other kids also stumble across the room while attempting to search for our boy. The oldest among them expresses how worried they were about him. One little girl approaches her mother and requests the name of this child. The woman holds the kid up just like Rafiki holds Simba, and graces him with the name Aster. His name symbolizes a new star who has been born into the family. And just like that, 10 years pass. Lord Highfried makes his grand arrival right outside a massive mansion of Duke Roderick. Following him is our boy Aster, accompanied by his sister, Alphen. She is the same adorable Alphen who was just our boy's age back then. Now, she has turned out to be a fresh flower plucked straight from a garden. Let's learn about the reason why the Viscount and his kids are gathering at this place. The Sword Dance Gathering is an annual event hosted by the Duke's house under the Elmheim banner. In simpler words, it's a social gathering of nobles hailing from warrior houses. This gathering acts as a catalyst for them to come closer and make new acquaintances. It is also a place of rivalry, where each house shows off their young swordsmen who carry their family names. As Viscount Highfried and his kids make their way through the crowd, we realize that they aren't well accepted in this gathering of nobles. Everyone is whispering among themselves, talking shit behind their backs. They are sure the Viscount is once again going to end up humiliated like every year. What's more hilarious to them is the fact that Viscount Highfried has adopted some runt of unknown background. Everyone loathes them for one reason only. The Viscount is seen as just a stubborn stain on Elmheim's shiny name. Since it is the first time Aster is partaking in this annual gathering, he isn't very familiar with the ropes. So, his sister warns him to stay firm on his feet and avoid showing any sign of weakness. Those who appear weak will be the first to get blown out of the competition. His sister's trembling hands make Aster realize the standing of the Viscount family isn't that strong. And well, that's exactly why Viscount Highfried brought Aster with him. He wanted him to witness firsthand the current position of the Viscount family within the Elmheim name. Perhaps sensing this, he questions his foster child if he is disappointed by their downfall, while my guy expresses full enthusiasm about the situation they are currently in. Even though Aster isn't a masochist, he is still enjoying this cold reception they are getting upon arrival. His enthusiasm certainly amuses the Viscount, who is relieved to see his forward-thinking attitude. You see, in Aster's past life he too was called the disgrace of the Elmheim family. The kind of reputation he had then is nothing compared to this. Coming back to this place doesn't jog any fond memories because there aren't any. However, Aster is looking forward to making some new memories that will be painful to some, but amusing to him. After all, he isn't the runt he used to be. He has his 7 wings, which is more than enough to devastate both of Roderick's brats. This time, he is ready to make a spectacular debut that he always deserved. Fast forward to the arena, with 2 contestants already duking it out. In an era where everyone yearned to become a knight, an individual would have to compete hard to stand at the pinnacle. For that, a knight must possess both strength and elegance. To achieve strength, excelling at swordsmanship is necessary, while elegance and splendor can only be earned through fame. Those who possessed both qualities were granted the absolute family symbol, the wing crest. As one of the contestants takes the title of the wing crest, the audience erupts in a round of applause. The intensity and energy in the air are as intimidating as ever, and it never fails to rattle Alphen. Since both her other sisters, Fren and Freya, had already witnessed the cutthroat intensity of the competition, they simply refused to even join as spectators. The victor must dominate and humiliate the loser in an effort to show off their dominance. Even the sight of the loser in front of him reminds our boy of his miserable past self, who was a laughingstock for others too. His sister abruptly interrupts his thoughts, snapping him out of it. Perhaps she thinks he is feeling scared, which is understandable since it's his first sword dance gathering. Well, it's clear his sister is misunderstanding his situation. He is far from scared, and when he proclaims it confidently, his sister gets confused for a moment. Right then, the Viscount announces his departure for the time being since he has a conference meeting to attend. Before walking away, he hands over the responsibility of Alphen's safety to our boy's shoulders. The girl feels offended for obvious reasons. After all, she is a year older than him. The father then also hands over a free loading screen tip to his son as well. Since there are many people around his age, he suggests he try to get along with them and make new friends. However, he quietly warns him to conceal the secret of his 7 wings from everyone. With that, the man is off, leaving the siblings standing there, surrounded by people who eye our duo like wolves. The both were receiving a condescending and judging glare, as if they were nothing more than intruders who didn't belong here. Our boy thought of the hostile atmosphere and figured it would be impossible to connect with people here. But suddenly he saw someone and immediately walked away from his sister, leaving Alphen in confusion. The boy had finally scored an opportunity to make friends. But that was just an excuse. The friends he's talking about are seated proudly. They're the sons of the main family, his previous siblings. The boy greets Darius politely, introducing himself by full name and stating intentions of simply dropping by for a hello. Grion, the second brother, explains that this is actually the adopted kid from the Viscount's family. Just hearing that much is enough to dazzle Darius, who mocks Aster for having the nerve to address himself as one of the Elmheim. Both of these brothers are the same cruel beings who killed him in his previous life. At the time, they were frightening to face against. But watching them now, Aster thinks they're nothing more than just a bunch of kids trying to act Sigma. Suddenly, Alphen comes along to drag her brother away, believing that Aster has done enough by greeting them. Of course, as she's taking him away, Darius calls out to her, insulting her for not hiding behind her father today. Having the authority of the main house, Darius demands her to come sit by their side and entertain the Elmheim heirs. However, Alphen isn't a bitch and refuses the order, reminding them that the two families never had a master-servant relationship. She forcibly drags our boy away, who shows hesitation and refuses to leave. Aster doesn't want to wrap up here, but Darius makes things much easier for the both of them. This bastard gets all fired up and starts shouting insults against the Viscount, who despite being a knight, ended up failing to protect the king. As a consequence, Roderick severed his own brother's arm off, making him a disgrace of the family. Alphen is stomaching all of these insults listening to Darius, but this man drops another zinger by pitying her for sharing his loser uncle's blood. The rage bait is successful, causing Alphen to go up and confront the mocking brat. She wants to stand up for her father, but her display of bravery is torn to shreds when he spits out his grape juice right in her face. Darius reminds Alphen that useless girls like her can't inherit the title, so her father must also be disappointed in her. He also questions her dressing up improperly, without having any clothes to prevent getting wet. Alphen stands there at the brink of crashing out, and while watching this scene, Aster is grateful. He's grateful for the fact that his shitty brothers are still the same, because now, he doesn't need to quell his anger. It's just a good reminder of why he wants his revenge in the first place. Aster enters the chat by grabbing another bottle before going up to his sister and tossing the bottle up high. The noble quickly grabs the bottle, not knowing that it was the perfect distraction. At that moment, our boy unsheathes his sword so fast that he cuts the bottle and spills its contents on Darius's face. The arrogant noble is caught off guard, reduced to an embarrassing sight, while Aster cleans the liquid from his sword, before tasting some of it in his mouth. He realizes that it's actually just grape juice and not wine, which is the perfectly fitting for trust fund baby nobles who want to act tough. Just 3 years ago, Aster's unfathomable energy leaked while his father, the Viscount, tried his best to restrain him. The boy's outrage had harmed Alphen, and the rest of his sisters were in grave danger. He continued to unleash the might of the Seven Wings, becoming the most unstoppable force on the planet. Aster's leaking energy was devastating to the point even the Viscount felt uncertain in his ability to stop him. The boy was consumed by his berserk state. Back to the present, Viscount Highfried receives a sudden visit from one of his servants. He has interrupted an important conference for an immediate announcement, revealing the clash between the Sons of Elmheim branches. The announcement stuns Highfried, while Roderick stays mogging. Highfried aura farms with pure Sasuke energy, when suddenly Alphen bursts through to explain the situation. The other members in the conference witness the ongoing duel between both the great Elmheim brothers. It's a rare sight in the arena, so everyone's looking forward to it. After all, the winner of this match could very well decide the fate of the Sword Dance Gathering event. On one side stands Darius, the arrogant dickhead who thinks he's hot shit just because he belongs to the main family, even calling our boy a worthless stray that their family took in. Wearing his power with pride, Darius shows off his four-wing crest, impressing the audience with his might as the son of the Duke. To mock him, Darius taunts our boy to show everyone his wing crest in an effort to humiliate Aster for having a weaker wing crest than him. Our boy confirms to this wannabe imbecile that showing off is indeed embarrassing, so he couldn't ever stoop so low. Watching Aster's calm and collected response pisses off Darius even more. But our boy's not finished there. He places a condition, emphasizing that if Aster won, he's going to make Darius apologize to Alphen. In return, Darius wants Aster to become a dog for him for the rest of his life. We get some real action as the brain-dead autistic monkey lunges forth with his dual blades. The first swing is casually blocked by Aster, who is still sent back from the impact. Watching his sword tremble is enough to show that Darius isn't a pushover opponent, while the redhead glazes himself as the mightiest of them all. A proper sword clash follows as both fighters exchange swings in their dance. Alphen is worried for her brother, but it's worthy to note that Darius's swordsmanship is lacking. But even with half-decent sword skills, the real advantage is that the punk has an overwhelming amount of magic. That's what makes the wing crest bearers so different from ordinary fighters. A single wing could be used to represent the magical power of a candle. The magic of 4 wings, on the other hand, is exponentially stronger. That's why Darius is confident in his barrage, as he's got the firepower of an explosion in his arsenal. Heavy on the offense, Darius taunts his opponent for being tight-lipped, wondering where Aster's confidence disappeared. Meanwhile, our boy is casually playing defense, prompting Darius to take even more extreme measures and aiming for a heavy dual-blade strike. The spectators suspect that this fight's gonna finish with this next hit, but then comes Aster's sword, beautifully cutting in and blocking both swords. The look on Darius's face is amusing. He shares complete bafflement of how his attack was stopped. Aster, our glorious king, basically tells him to shut the fuck up for once and sends his bitch ass flying into next Tuesday. Our boy imbues some of his magic into his sword, while remarking on his decade-long training to control his magic. He spent every moment getting better so that one day, he could exact his revenge against his brothers. Going on the offense, our boy strikes down his sword against Darius, who was struggling to block. The heavy impact forces him down on his knees, astonishing Grion that his brother is actually struggling. At this moment, Aster looks like a demon with unfathomable magic power, while his opponent is trying to maintain the shit talk by saying he's got 4 wings. Looking at him like an emotionless demon, Aster puts more magic into his sword, making the crowd question if the brat of the Viscount family could actually win this brawl. The son of the main Elmheim family is in deep trouble, when suddenly those same golden sparks turn into black. The look on our boy's face tells you everything. This wasn't supposed to happen. Even Highfried can see it. Darius is barely holding on, but the mere memory of this bastard ripping off our boy's arm in the previous life is more than enough fuel for Aster to keep going. He exerts far too much power, to the point his opponent is pathetically begging him to stop at this point. Highfried roars at him to stop, but the boy continues to bulldoze Darius into the ground. It comes to a point where the cocky redhead's swords are shattered, concluding the clash in an upset. Darius is on the ground after pissing himself with a surprised Pikachu face, while Aster force feeds him the same words this clown told Alphen, to wear better clothes next time so he doesn't get wet. The fight wraps up with Aster reflecting on how he's no longer the powerless and wingless Ash anymore. That much is enough to make him happy and clear his head. Suddenly, our boy experiences fear of death when he senses the dominating aura of Roderick coming from behind. The moment he turns back, Aster sees Roderick with a murderous expression on his face, as if he's displeased with the outcome. The people among the audience are all thrilled by the outcome. The youngest and adoptive son from the Branch family ended up beating the main house's 3rd son. However, with his reputation obliterated like that, Roderick isn't just going to stay quiet for long. Having balls of titanium, our boy walks up to Roderick, while Darius smiles, thinking that his daddy is going to resolve the situation for him. Aster stared up at the towering man who was the head of the Elmheim family. The man stared down at the boy with fierceness, but Aster continued to match his gaze. He wanted to take down the Duke with his own hands. At that point, Darius flung over to his father's side, clutching his uniform and begging Daddy to kill the dog who tried to defame the might of the main family. Roderick stared down at his boy with inconsideration, and before Darius could even finish his sentence, he tore a blade into his own son's hand. The audience watches in horror, realizing that this guy might even end up executing his own son. The Duke is merciless in judgment, stating how Darius is grinning like the fool he is even after dragging their family's name down. Highfried begged his younger brother to stop, but this man is the definition of extreme and loaded his sword to end his own son's life. The blade descended but never reached its target. Why? Because Mr. Balls of Titanium stepped up to Roderick, stunning the Duke. Our boy reasoned that Aster still hadn't apologized to his sister as part of their bet, so he wanted his uncle to save any punishment until after the conditions were fulfilled. Duke looks down at him with ferocity, recalling how the kid is just an orphan picked up by Highfried, yet somehow believes he belongs to the Elmheim family. Aster fires back, stating that he's absolutely the Viscount's son, and even without any blood ties, he has learned from his father about the pride of a knight and the weight of inheriting one's house. Hearing those words, Roderick glances back at Highfried, then makes an even more tyrannical argument. He thinks that it's Aster's fault for damaging the pride of the main family by showing off his pride in front of everyone. Even for a children's quarrel, it's far too much disrespect for the main house to handle. Roderick mocks Highfried for offering one arm already as the price for crossing him once, so now he wonders what the boy is willing to give up. Aster is in some serious hot waters right now because he needs a good argument. To set the tone, he assures his uncle that this was a proper duel, and not just any brotherly quarrel. He fought with a sword to answer Darius's swords and his insults against the Viscount family, even declaring that the person who can't avenge his own faults shouldn't have the right to bear a weapon in the first place. Those are the words of the Duke himself, so Aster isn't going to be offering even a single finger. The boy's got some mad guts and everyone can see that, refusing to believe that he's only 10. Roderick's intensity wears off as he sheathes his sword, accepting the argument. Then strangely, he tells the boy to quickly draw his sword. Terrified, Aster reaches for his weapon, but in that exact moment, the Duke's sword is already on his head. This man pulled a psych moment on a literal child and launched Aster crashing through walls. Alphen holds up her face in terror while the boy's father roars at his brother's cruel response. The Viscount leaps into the arena to personally challenge his brother, but the Duke doesn't even look at him as he blocks his attack. Highfried leaps up and down, running to check on Aster's condition. What he finds is a shattered blade. But here's the part that gave me literal chills. The kid is actually standing on his feet, even while all bruised and battered up. He blocked that last hit with fierce determination. There's no fear in his eyes. Roderick sees this and turns back around, leaving with his son. Of course, the after effects of blocking such a heavy attack quickly chime in, causing Aster to topple. His father catches the boy, who barely has any consciousness. Our boy proudly tells his father that he protected everything, even his promise just now. Highfried is enormously proud of his son, thinking of him as magnificent. As for the Duke, he receives glaring remarks by his allies for acting brash and childish. At the same time, if he hadn't done anything, then their reputation would have been sullied for sure. Striking him down was a decent compromise. Even then, it's the perfect debut for Aster, who showed everyone that he could talk down against the great Duke of the family and still survive a single hit from the head. Still, the situation could have genuinely caused both branches to separate, which is something that Roderick actually wants, believing that that time will come soon enough. A storm is coming to divide the world into several pieces. But for today, Highfried's family remains happy. The next time we see Aster is when he's wiping the floor against his opponent, who reveres his master to be just as amazing as always. Keep in mind, he's still 10 years old here, and ever since his return from the sword dance gathering, the boy has only been training even more intensely. Rumors of Aster humiliating the Duke's third son have started spreading about. All this time, the main house berated and treated the Viscount house like crap. But something has finally changed for once. Running into action, our boy internalizes his skills at the sword dance gathering. He showed power and proved his worth. That alone should be enough to silence the voices that always berated the Viscount house to be a disgrace to the main family. But that was just a side quest. The real target for Aster remains unchanged, and that is to deal with the Elmheims. He's eager to see just how powerful he could become. And though he wanted to release uncontrollable strength at the gathering, he knew that it wouldn't be enough to defeat Duke Roderick. Wing crests are indicators of hidden pools of magic. They serve as strength indicators, but if that same magic can't be uncontrolled, then it doesn't matter how many wings you have. That's the case for Aster right now, who can't unleash the full might of his 7 wings. He can't even train for it because the second he tries to break into his 7-wing powers, he loses control. Anyway, Aster defeats another opponent and looks up to find someone else. Unfortunately, Bro beat all of them to the ground, so there's genuinely no one left to face him. Alphen finds her brother exerting himself again, refusing to restrain himself. She has actually come to inform him about the Viscount's call, prompting Aster to leave right away. But as he's about to leave, he glances back at Alphen's uniform, and she turns around to question his confusion. The thing is, she's wearing a different outfit than usual. She refused to wear this one in the past because it wasn't cute. But now Alphen has learned that she must also grow in a similar manner to her brother. Alphen points her sword in his face, declaring that the next time he returns, they're gonna be having a little face-off. Our boy smiles, sarcastically hoping that his sister doesn't just kill him on the first hit. In the next scene, Aster knocks on the Viscount's door to attend his call. Highfried has been waiting for the boy and orders the boy to take a seat, indicating that the matter isn't trivial. Our boy sits down, while Highfried explains how 10 whole years have passed since they welcomed him into the Elmheim family. Putting something on the table, he shares how he wanted to wait until Aster had grown older, but figured now is the right time. The crimson ring resting on the table isn't just an ordinary gift, it's an heirloom that declares the boy's position as the next head of the branch house. Highfried openly announces his desire for the boy to inherit the Viscount's house. This announcement is unexpected for his son, and Highfried even admits that the position is fragile. The unfortunate reality is that there's still a branch family bearing the name of the Elmheims, which is why as lords of certain territories, they have duties to uphold and lands to protect. It would be threatening to leave the position of the next Viscount empty. So this is the reason Highfried is making an early decision. The biggest question for Aster is if his sisters are chill with the idea, because Bro's not even a blood heir. The Viscount assures him that all his sisters will return from the night school in 3 days, and it's then that he'll formally tell them. Marfa and Kudo have been away for a while, but Aster knows for a fact that neither one of them is going to be happy about this announcement. Kudo is absolutely going to get angry, but that's merely because she hates him for being born a male who had access to the blessings of the 7 wings. Long story short, girl is a reverse incel. Knowing her disapproval, Aster refuses the position, highlighting his inability to control his own magic right now. He's the most self-aware even as a 10-year-old, admitting that he's nothing more than an immature fool who got his sister in trouble because of his powers. Aster has zero confidence in his ability to convince the other sisters, and his answer actually makes the Viscount smile. As he's leaving, Highfried shares how he found it really difficult to believe that Aster was just a child, even when he was little. This ring felt like a fitting reward for the sword dance gathering performance. But if Aster is going to refuse the heirloom, then the next auction is more fitting for him. Our boy's eyes draw open in shock at the sight of the gorgeous magic sword, Gram, a weapon capable of taming the Seven Wings' power, the only sword that is capable of swallowing magic whole. In the next scene, both of them are out in the forest to test out the might of the sword. Aster doesn't get the point of coming out all the way here since the training hall would have been plenty to test its powers, but it's only because his beloved son is dangerous and breaks things often during training. The Viscount emphasizes that the magic sword is a legendary blade passed down to the eldest sons of the Elmheim family. This generational tradition is the reason why Highfried got the weapon, and he even brought it from the main house just to give it to his son. The Viscount tears off the sword's wraps, but much to the boy's shock, the sword doesn't have anything to work with. The weapon is literally broken, and can't even be used for combat. But suddenly, when the Viscount channels magic into it, the same weapon pulses with blazing red mana, creating a sword full of magical power. That's why this weapon is considered the Blade of Potential, because its limits are only decided by its wielder's capabilities. Highfried shows off a goddamn Kamehameha-sized attack, vaporizing a path and scarring the forest. Even the sword has several benefits. The biggest problem is that it depletes the user of his mana. The legendary weapon is cursed for that reason, so there's a cost to using it. Highfried wonders if his son is interested in trying out the weapon for himself, so Aster grabs it and follows the demonstration. He starts imbuing his magic into the sword, creating a pulsing golden and dark energy wave. Even without exerting any magic, the blade is just ripping it off his body, siphoning it off of him. The result? Aster's energy explosion is so large that it acts like a meteoric fall. The students in the training ground are baffled until they realize that something didn't fall down, it actually went up instead. While they're busy debating with each other, Alphen senses that it has to be something related to her brother. Speaking of our boy, he's impressed and intrigued with Graham's firepower. Even Highfried is stunned with the boy's unmatchable strength as he ripped even clouds apart. The reality is, not a single person in the Elmheim family has wielded the strength of a seven-wing crest. So if Aster can master this power, then eventually he'll become so powerful that he'll leave swordsmen like Roderick and Highfried in the dust. The very thought of being able to surpass the head of the family is motivating enough for Aster. However, the Viscount leaves the boy with a warning. If people learn about his bottomless power, that he possesses the seven wings, it's absolutely given that they'll despise and target the boy. Several will use schemes to manipulate and take advantage, while others would exploit opportunities to kill the boy. Offering his hand, Highfried believes that until Aster becomes unstoppably strong, he needs to train harder from now on. The boy clasps his father's hand, admitting that he refuses to lead a miserable life like he did in the past. Thankful to his father, the boy promises to master the seven wings no matter the cost. 3 days passed from that point. The sisters that left for night school were welcomed back into the family. Kudo and Marfa have returned, and immediately the eldest sister reaches out to the little ones for a wide hug. But instead of embracing her, the younger sisters run up to hug Marfa, rejecting Kudo like she never even existed. The poor girl got cooked so hard, it turns out the little sisters despise Kudo for teasing them and messing up their hair. Kudo pretends to be cool, acting like that never even happened because she's mastered knightly etiquette. She glances back towards Alphen, before charging at her for a hug. Alphen doesn't even get how she's being dragged into their mess, while Marfa looks around, curious to note why Aster's missing from the party. The mention of the boy drags down Kudo's mood, who seems to have no interest in caring about him. Speaking of our boy, the kid is a menace right now and unleashing bursts of magic. Mastering his weapon has become a pain. So far, he can wield the magical blade, but suppressing its enormous energy is difficult. Somehow the Viscount could do it easily and control his output. Watching him train so intensively, Kudo greets her little brother. The boy is surprised to see her return like that, while Big Sister scolds him for not even having the respect to welcome her return. Kudo continues to berate him, questioning Aster's ego and asking if he's really so special for the ordinary Elmheims. She even heard about the things that went down at the sword gathering event. The whole night school couldn't stop yapping about Aster's performance. Calmly replying back, the boy highlights Kudo as truly special in her own way. Despite being a trainee, she has experienced several dangerous missions and survived all of them. She was the only knight in her group to receive the Medal of Honor of the Year. However, Kudo thinks it's just the bare minimum for her to inherit the Viscount's position. Kudo then reveals her knowledge of Aster's refusal to become heir, and she even knows that he refused the position for her sake. Bro is low-key frustrated that his father couldn't keep something private for once, and clarifies that he only turned down the position because he felt inadequate and underqualified. In response, Kudo walks up to a tree nearby, remarking how both her father and brother know about her lifelong dream and yet, they're both cruel. Aster watches in shock as she cuts down the tree, swiping it all the way towards our boy. Luckily, he dodges it just in time, questioning what has gotten into his sister all of a sudden. Facing him with the full intentions of combat, Kudo remarks that she's here to test his skills. This time she won't be holding back even a little. The boy tries to stop her from doing something reckless as his weapon is still incomplete, but she thinks he's making excuses that the enemy on the battlefield will ignore. Aster can't believe that she's announcing herself as an enemy, while the knight remarks her only condition for life is to always be prepared for battle. Getting into stance, she warns him not to hold back, or else he'll be completely smashed into the ground. Kudo lunges with incredible speed to take her brother down, while Aster struggles to face his sister, especially since he hasn't controlled his magic just yet. With no choice left, he activates the magic sword, knowing it's the only thing that's going to protect him from Kudo's wrath. The battle between the strongest siblings begins. The fight starts with the older sister playing rough, praising her brother for being just as adept with the sword as he was before. A part of her is going frenzy, while at the same time curious if he can keep up with her swordsmanship training at the Knight Academy. While she's overwhelming him, she's also disappointed that his control over the sword is pathetic. Kudo taunts him for his lack of magical coherence, before slamming him away. Our boy is sweating bullets right now, knowing that his sister is going as hard as ever on him. That's always been how Kudo was like, even when they were little. It makes him wonder if it's because he's the only male in the family, the one who bears the right of succession, or if it's because he's special, someone who possesses a wing crest surpassing all the others. Kudo has always been tough on him, challenging his limits in every battle, calling the world unfair. In other words, she's the kind of person one would expect to be his natural enemy, and right now she's speed blitzing this man, teleporting right in his face as she delivers yet another powerful slash, roaring at her brother for being unfit for the rank of head of the house. The conversation shifts to Highfried and the other siblings. They're unsure if this is the right thing as it might result in a proper casualty. But Papa knows that this fight is necessary to resolve their sibling differences. Reckless it may be, it still won't reach to the level of ruin for either of them, or at least that is what their sister hopes. But she's curious why they were being immediately summoned from the Knight Academy in the first place, because it's not like he desired to speak of the succession to begin with. Highfried confirms this, before pulling out an envelope from the box, revealing that it's actually a summoning from the main Elmheim house. Apparently the elders who led the core of the house want to see the face of their grandson once more. This is an unexpected and major development. Highfried is mostly worried that at any rate, they will end up losing Aster to those hounds. Back to the scene of the battle, both siblings are duking it out with Kudo mostly being on the offensive. Aster reminds his sister that he'd already turned down the offer of succession. His own father knows that, and yet, Kudo hellishly attacks him, explaining that even their father disagrees with his decision. Her every hit is making him feel the weight of the earth, as if a powerful troll monster was swinging its enormous mallet and drowning him with its force. To retaliate appropriately, our boy clutches his sword, and somehow deflects her sword to the side, gaining an opening advantage that he could use against her. Kudo mocks him for trying to run off, before unleashing a chaotic burst of energy that knocks him way back, hitting him so hard that he spurted out blood just from the force of the impact. Kudo calls him a pathetic third-rate fighter if mindlessly swinging a sword is the only thing he can do, and he'd be second-rate if he could handle magic on his own. The only person who is considered first-rate is when they combine both elements and use them in unison. So far in their battle, Kudo remains disappointed, having hardly broken a sweat against her little brother. You see, the difference in wing crests is mainly about how much mana is channeled and outputted by a fighter. Just a single wing gap is enough to create a 3x multiplier, so it's kind of like a Super Saiyan state. In terms of magical output and stamina, she's only at 5 wings, and should be several times inferior to his caliber of a 7-wing fighter. And with that difference in strength, her brother seems to be avoiding direct combat against her like a coward, even refusing to use swordsmanship to his advantage. Kudo smiles, taunting her brother for distrusting his own abilities, intrigued if he's worried about going berserk and causing damage like he did 3 years back. Her words hit him like a cannon to the head. Deep down, our boy just realized that he may have been subconsciously limiting his own powers, out of the fear of hurting people again. Looking at his weapon now, it makes him wonder if that limitation is becoming an obstacle in his wielding of the sword, because he's suppressing his magic. Kudo is frustrated. The brother who stands before him has everything she could ever want, and yet he's being arrogant without even realizing how lucky he is among them. The sister lunges forth to steal it all from him, pushing him one last time to actually lock the fuck in for once. In response, this man swings his sword with the cleanest cut, deflecting her full force strike with a single swing. He then thanks his sister for helping him awaken, making him remember what he's truly capable of. What shocks her next is how this man is jumping up in her face without even manifesting his magical sword. Kudo knows that this guy clearly hasn't run out of mana, but bro is going full psycho mode at this point. She aims to block this swing, while preparing to unleash the unending magic hidden deep within his special crest. Our boy knows that he can't master this ability right now, but for one single moment, one definitive moment, he lets all of his magic out, without even the desire to maintain his manifested blade strike. Impressed, she manages to block his attack, praising him at last for thinking of something creative. Our boy admits that he has no desire to waste yet another life, the same second chance that he's been lucky to have. He won't lose this newfound power, or his sword, or even his most beloved family, because these are all the things that he couldn't hope to achieve no matter how much he struggled before. By the way, unlike other isekai protagonists, this man literally said all of it out loud. The words, "second life," confuse Kudo momentarily, while her brother rages on with full speed, unleashing yet another blade strike. Except this time, bro vanishes right before her vision, returning to the ground and creating an opening, refusing to hold back any longer. Now that she's wide open, bro cuts her with full capacity, and it genuinely looks scary, as if he just split her in half. The next time Kudo wakes up, she's left wondering where the hell she even is. It dawns on her all of a sudden that her sister Malfa is standing right around the corner, expressing how it took a while for her to wake up. Immediately realizing that she was knocked out, Kudo roared and asked about the duel she had with Aster, to which Malfa politely explained that the brother carried her all the way back here after knocking Kudo out, explaining how the sister actually slept in between the duel. Instead of insulting her or anything, Aster made it seem like it was actual fatigue that managed to get the best of Kudo instead, which is a shoddy explanation that not even the knight in training believes. After all, she remembers that one precise moment in which she was left wide open, in which her brother had cut her down, but she also knows that he must have disintegrated the mana sword right before impact, making her only feel like a tiny little fraction of mana cutting her body instead of the fully charged blade. I mean, it's kind of obvious that Aster is the kind of person who would never slaughter his own siblings, but Kudo knows. The kind of devil she saw in his eyes back then really made her question if bro was about to send her ass to the Shadow Realm for good. Despite the fact that he's far younger, she can tell that Aster harbors quite the spiteful spirit in him, which makes Kudo smile if anything. Grabbing her sword, she asks Malfa about their younger brother's location, refusing to let their iconic duel end on her loss, with the full intention of going all out from the beginning. Malfa colors her sister a new surprise regarding Aster, expressing that the boy already left. This does a number on Kudo, who hadn't anticipated such a development. You see, thanks to the summoning invitation from the main Elmheim house, the boy had to leave alongside their father. What surprises Malfa is that Kudo didn't know at all, because as you can see with her jaw-dropping reaction, girl is annoyed and shocked at the same time that she wasn't made aware sooner. The perspective leads us to the main man himself. Our boy is in his travel carriage sitting across his father. Highfried emphasizes that they're headed to meet the elders who express support of the Elmheim house. They were once the heads of the main and branching families, but even after their retirement, these elders hold considerable influence and power, dubbed as the ominous Shadow Rulers. Highfried adds that the elders never showed any interest in him since the boy's adoption, which really boggles him as to why they're suddenly calling for a summoning now of all times. Our boy on the other hand figures that it's probably because of the outcome of the Sword Dance Festival. The Elmheim elders only care about the family's prestige, unlike wealth or even their lives. Any person who ends up tarnishing the prestige of their family is sent to get torn apart by the beasts, thrown into a cage of their demise. Highfried, who is genuinely worried about the boy's source of knowledge, asks how he knows all this. Aster makes up an excuse that he just heard it around somewhere. He's mentally resolved himself for there to be at least some kind of punishment involved. This stuns his father, who is a little annoyed that the boy didn't even wish a proper goodbye to his family despite knowing all this. Our boy ushers that it's okay. He wanted to leave quickly, and he also figures that Kudo would like it more if he wasn't around to mess with her. Aster also adds that it's thanks to the duel against his sister that he managed to obtain some level of control over his sword Graham, helping him draw even more power out of the special 7 Wings crest than ever before. That's why if anything happens in the upcoming meeting, our boy wants his father to stay out of it, resolving himself that he'll be fine. Before Highfried could respond back, both the father and son heard someone shouting just outside the carriage, roaring that the kid shouldn't act arrogant as he's young. Bro's eyes open wide when he sees Kudo's face plastered against the window. This psycho sister came all the way here chasing his ass down. The crazy sister flings herself right inside, annoyed that he didn't even say goodbye to her before leaving, though she's heard all the important stuff about Aster's summoning through the elders. Highfried declares Kudo by her full name, indicating a hint of annoyance, as he reminds the redhead that he can't take her to the main house. But that doesn't bother her at all. She understands her role here. But at the same time, Kudo fears that this summon is going to involve more cautiousness than Aster is letting on. Even someone like Sister Malfa knows this. Everyone is afraid that the boy will never return after stepping foot inside once. Now, our boy downplays the whole situation, acting like nothing bad will happen, but deep down, bro's also worried about getting jumped by the boomers too. Kudo scolds Aster, openly expressing her endless hate for him, starting off with the fact that he's the only boy among their family. Then he has the 7 wings. Finally, he gets the special treatment among them. She can already tell that he's far stronger than her, despite the difference among their age and experience. And then the kid also acts like a mature person despite being young. Even though she has all the reasons to hate her brother, Kudo can't forget the fact that he's part of their family. And even if he became the strongest person there was, she still wouldn't stop worrying about him as he's her brother. That's why she wants him to return no matter what, because next time, Kudo isn't going to let him off easy with a win next time. Saying so, she parts from the carriage, making him wonder why she even bothered to come all the way here. But still, it left a positive impression on Aster, who now has garnered the resolve of returning to his family no matter the cost. Arriving at the main entrance of the Shadow Rulers, the gatekeepers welcome them, expressing how the elders are waiting for them inside. Highfried assures these men that he knows his way around, but they refuse to let them go unmonitored, having been given strict orders to ensure both father and son stay together. Just like that, now our boy knows for sure that these guys hold some level of animosity towards him. It's not some easy meetup to chill with the grandchild. The vibe is entirely different. Though it may seem like an intimidating location, a part of his memories is associated with this haunted estate being his one true home. Highfried and his son are escorted. The boy's father recommends him not to lose his patience, even if the others provoke them to oblivion. The boy is still stubborn, but that's precisely the problem. The boy suddenly finds himself distracted by the duels occurring around the arena, though he can't find a trace of Dallas, which seems understandable since the dude's dominant hand got fucked last time. Highfried calls for the boy's attention, emphasizing that he doesn't zone out. Aster assures his pops that he'll be quiet and obedient, since his sister wants him to return in one piece. And yes, the One Piece is real. Finally, we arrive inside the chambers of the elders. The main one sitting at the center expresses how it's been 10 whole years since they last saw each other. The old man addresses Highfried as his grandson, who then kneels before the sixth head, referring to him as the great-grandfather of the family. From this angle, our boy can sense that the old man before him is a literal monster, hiding among the shadows of the Elmheim family. Zanus Elmheim, as well as the others, are also pretty prominent figures, each bearing their own name and significance in the council. The good thing is that at least Aster recognizes some of their faces, but what bugs him is why Roderick isn't attending the meeting, and as if reading the kid's mind, Zenas assures him that the man he's worried for isn't going to be here. That man, Roderick, is the leader of the knights under the royal family, who has duties to attend to, and won't be bogged down by pointless meetings, so the old rulers are handling such administration for him in his stead. In his previous life, our boy never had the chance to encounter Zenas even once, but the fact that this old man managed to summon so many executive figures without even the necessity of Roderick only goes on to show that he's got quite the influence and control over the family. Concerned, Highfried asks the big question of why they're summoned. Zenas laughs, knowing that these guys must have already pieced it all together by now. What happened back at the Sword Dance Festival? Just as our boy suspected, it really is about that stupid festival. Highfried explains that Roderick already handled the situation, but in truth, Zenas and the other elders know that it was merely just a performance in the eyes of the public. The family's name was tarnished, and that fact is final. For one, a child outside the family was adopted, a mistake from the start that was overlooked. But then, that same boy chose to go against the main family, tarnishing its reputation. The only answer left is to exile the kid, as the demons refuse to accept any other response. Even Highfried himself will be punished accordingly. Rising up from his position, Aster roars that he's the one who caused all the trouble, which shouldn't involve his father, but that man patiently accepted his fate and ushered his son to quietly accept. The elder scolds the boy for lacking discipline, to try and barge in a conversation between adults. Zenas stands up to show his respect, commanding over 12,000 knights under their own name. They're the ones who carry the weight of the Elmheim name on their shoulders, but the knights are not meant to be the only safeguard. They have other enemies, waiting for the precise moment to latch at their positions to get the top rank. Some of those people may even be present in this room right now. Smacking his cane with his every step, Zenas parrots that he desires a peace of mind, a proof that neither of them will cause any harm to the Elmheim family. So he grabs a sword and drags it up to Highfried's face, reminding him of what happened last time when he went against their family and lost his arm because of Roderick. In order to prove his loyalty to the family, Zenas gives him a torturous ultimatum, to take off the head of his own son, Aster. If he does that, every charge against them will be dropped. But before they could even negotiate, Highfried hammered a strong refusal, stating that he would rather cut his own head off than kill his son. While Aster is moved by his words, Zenus finds them despicable, and believes that in that case, they're both to be killed. Every single member of this branch family, including the wife and daughters of Highfried, will be eradicated. Today will be the day that the Viscount's family ceases to exist, and so each of the royal knights quickly surround the father-son duo, pointing their blades against the defenseless. To really kiss off the old geezer, the boy questions what the sixth head is so afraid of. He's got a group of grown men here, who are afraid of a little boy, afraid that they'll be betrayed by one of their most loyal servants. The boy taunts Zenith that he can do all of that. He could cut him down or even exile Aster, but if he so dares to mess with his family, that's a line that can never be left unchecked. In that moment, Aster grabs his choker and takes off his shirt, showcasing all the elders the symbol behind his back, the mark bearing the 7 crests. It is Aster's decree that if Elmheim goes against him, then these wings will cut them all down, so it's in their best interest to think carefully. Bro's ultimatum drew the attention of all the others in the room. The immediate response is one of denial. They can't believe that the 7th crest has appeared on a human body after centuries. Zenus, who grew quiet just now, questions if the boy understands the weight of what he's showing them right this moment. Aster smiles even in the face of swords raised against him, knowing that people get surprised with the more wings people possess on their bodies. One of the council members begins to uncontrollably laugh, ushering the meeting to continue. Zenus explains that the magical crest is a literal organ of magical power, gifted by spirits which pass on across each generation, refining their strengths, and yet, not a single human has capably reached the 7th wing crest, the only exception being the originators of the crests themselves. Aster catches on and questions if they're trying to accuse him of being a member of the Spirit Clan. Zenus entertains the idea of his wings being authentic, while the Viscount watches in great interest. Our boy responds, explaining that he's still the son of the Viscount. The circumstances of his birth don't matter. What he's most curious about is if they're ready to have him as an ally or an enemy, because even if he was to be exiled from the family, there are other noble houses out there in the world who would welcome the unfathomable power of his wings at once. The ones who fear rebellion the most, the shadow rulers of this same council, will only attract more trouble to their doorstep, so it's in their best interest to have him as close to them as possible. After all, these 7 wings are bound to surpass even the might of the great Duke Roderick when he reaches his full potential. Those words scare the crap out of the elders, who know that the child is speaking the truth. The family of Elmheim isn't some monolith. Rebellions are expected, and in fact, one massive civil war is destined to break out soon, devouring the whole country, swallowing the future that Aster has already witnessed before his eyes. To make sure this family survives the onslaught that is to come, the boy intends to determine for himself what person he chooses as his allies or his enemies, even if he has to desperately take risks. Zenus, who is still on his high horse, shouts that the boy can't possibly be worth that much, especially since they have no proof of inspecting the authenticity of the wings. Knowing that he's got these boomers right where he wants them, Aster gives them full permission to take off his head, because if they do as much, it will declare a proper war between 2 sides. Of course, if the family got actually serious about extinguishing him, they'll slaughter Aster without worry, but that's not the point. He's curious how they'll react. While Zenus is questioning his decisions, one man stands up to eradicate the circular conversation, suggesting to the Great Elder that they set a proper trial for Aster to prove his worth. Earl Mays has spoken up against the wishes of the council, believing that it's the only way for everyone to witness the might of the 7 wings, then they can decide the boy's fate at will. The Earl's suggestion is rational, as they truly are the world's greatest martial clan, so a couple of trials would be easy to find and hold for the boy. The blue-haired man has come to his rescue, and right away, Aster can sense that this man will soon become his ally because of his added support in such a fragile situation. Zenus is swayed by the Earl's words, ushering the boy to follow him, so that he can discipline the child who doesn't know his place. In the next scene, we arrive at the trial ground area. It's a bleak, dark cage. The dark setting connects to an underground bunker leading to the waterways. The whole idea is to use it as an evacuation shelter for emergencies, which is also why there's a magical beast in there for protection. The goal is simple. Aster needs to defeat the magical beast and emerge victorious. Highfried is pissed off that the kid got himself in trouble again, even after the Viscount hoped for him to keep the wings a secret. But this is the wise decision from Aster's front, because our boy knows he can't keep a secret like this in hiding forever. Leaving for the trial, the father advises his son not to let his guard down, while Aster goes out swinging down the chain like a literal badass. As he's descending, he glances at Earl Mays's most satisfied expression, as if he's expecting the boy to do well. Our boy makes contact with the bottom moments after, realizing that the setting is extremely dark, making it incredibly difficult to see. Then his eyes glance ahead in pure shock and horror, while Zenus explains that he already gave this trial to Dallas, so that he could reclaim his honor. What became of him, you wonder? Bro's head is laying around wasted. The guy couldn't even lay a finger on the beast. Having located the magical beast, Aster readies his sword, while Zenus expects great things from him. The trial begins with the mighty beast roaring in Aster's face, an effort to intimidate him. Battle of life and death aside, our midget is only concerned with the fact that rumors of magical beast being kept inside the manor are true. Seeing Dallas's limbs torn apart makes even our boy want to pity the way the kid went out, which goes to show that the real monsters are the men sitting in the council room of this house. That aside, the magical beast gnaws at the boy, lunging to finish him in a single breath, but Aster gorgeously responds with a single slice, which shreds the creature with cuts all over its body, stunning all the elders through his might. After the fight, the boy's left with a disappointing impression, stating how his sister, Kudo, is far scarier and stronger. But that's the thing, the fight's not quite over yet, as the same monster who was cut down is beginning to regenerate. You see, this thing is actually an undead, and one of the ugliest ones ever too. Pyfried roars at the unfairness of this matchup, questioning how the family would even allow the existence of a defiling monster inside their basement. Zenas explains that the creature is attracted to the scent of death, hence it came most attracted to their basement, where death looms all around. The creature is impossible to be killed by any ordinary slashes or burns. That's why even Zenas had it captured, believing it would be perfect for testing someone's strength. That's the reason why they no longer face the issue of disposing of corpses either. Now, though Aster already defeated it once, the undead is out of his league in the sense that it takes a skilled knight just to capture it, and the boy is tasked to kill the beast, which will make it a pathetic death for a talented boy of the Seven Wings crest. The main elder doesn't really care if the boy is killed in this fight, believing that it'll just go to show his worthlessness. At the same time, Zenas is happy to make use of the wings if the boy actually dies, suggesting that he has some kind of way to steal the crest from him, which is why he's okay with Aster's death. The outcome has flipped. Even Earl Mays is concerned, hoping for Aster to show everyone that he won't die easily. Back to the fierce duel, both human and monster are slashing each other, but despite every cut that he renders, Aster gets no response in return. The creature's own regenerative abilities far surpass the likes of any ordinary undead. The main issue with facing an undead is that it's, well, a fucking undead. To kill it properly means sunlight is required or some level of purification through a weapon of holiness. If either method fails, then simply escaping its wrath is the typical methodology. Common sense, if you will. However here, not only does bro not have access to sunlight in the dark basement, he can't retreat either. Using the typical methods will make him seem ordinary, which is why our boy intends to create an everlasting impression, as he obliterates the undead with progressively stronger force. His goal is to dominate this ugly monster with destructive, endless magic attacks, such that even the elders watching the duel are starstruck, questioning if the boy finally managed to defeat the undead. Zenas knows the real answer and merely watches with intrigue. The dust settles, and the elder expresses pity for what will now become of the boy, implying his doom. Right then, our boy gets snatched like a baby, before being slammed into the ground. The undead is back to full health, on top of him with a one-sided advantage. The Viscount roars for his son, but Earl Mays urges him not to try and go help his son, because that decision will be idiotic. Pyfried fires back, questioning if he should merely stand here and watch his own son get ripped to shreds. Having more confidence in Aster than even the boy's own father, Earl Mays shares that he should calm down, because from the looks of things and the way the boy is smiling right now, it seems Aster has a trump card up his sleeve. The undead monster's body is clearly being affected. Its size is growing shorter with each hit, implying that Aster's mana blade is doing wonders. With the same confidence, Anakin Skywalker's clone embraces the dark side, manifests his red lightsaber and impales the undead. Bro's approach to deal with the creature is to repeat the same thing over and over until it is slain, eviscerating its head just by sheer force of the magic blade. It's the same technique that Pyfried demonstrated to the boy during their training, but something about it is different now. A vortex of energy is shot out, atomizing the undead down to shreds. Bro really hollow-purpled the hell out of this thing, to the point even the basement is collapsing. While the others are fretting, begging for Zenas to leave, this man stands aura-farming, not moving a damn inch as he lays his eyes on the gorgeous power of the Seven Wings. After the collapse of the basement, the big question emerges. Where the hell did the undead beast disappear off to? Zenas knows exactly what happened. The beast was caught in a vortex of magical energy, and couldn't regenerate as it died endlessly. It was a way to signify the sheer force of magical power, something that can't even be demonstrated by a technique, an unbridled display of power. Zenas then questions if Pyfried involved himself in Aster's last attack, but the Viscount declines, explaining how he himself is surprised by the boy's ever-growing strength. The outcome has been made clear. Earl Mays points out that the boy should pass the exam. The rest of them don't have anything to say to object to the conclusion either, which is why Earl shouts to Aster, confirming that he won the trial. The kid is told to come up fast, but the young master can't really do that, since the chains are jumbled and he needs a rope instead. In the next scene, we have Zenus privately sharing a conversation with the boy, reminding him that if he misses this chance he won't get another. Astor confirms that he doesn't have any interest in involving himself with the succession of the main family. His own presence in the main estate will trouble his cousins, and that's not something he intends to disrupt. In fact, the only place he considers home is the Viscount's house, an act that Zenus considers one of humility, even though it's impossible for Astor to hide the ambition gleaming in his eyes. The elder has sharp intuition, to the point he can already tell that the kid intends to go against the Elmheim family someday, making him wonder if Roderick is his true enemy. This throws our boy in a tense and guarded state. Zenus assures him that he doesn't need to be so cautious, as he doesn't desire any further conflict for now. This fact surprises Astor, who emphasizes that the Sixth Head typically does anything in his power to stop rebels. Once more, the old man explains that this family isn't a monolith. Roderick is far too powerful for even them to control, which means the presence of Astor, someone whose powers might eclipse even Roderick's someday, could act as a deterrent. However, if the boy ever dares to go against the elders ever again, then his fate will be set in stone. That concludes their little meeting. Astor heads out and meets his father, who is curious what happened. Our boy shares that he was given an invitation to join the main family, one he declined, which stuns the Viscount, as he would have been given excellent treatment under the main family's own surveillance. Earl Mays adds to that as well, but the million-dollar question for Astor is why this dude straight out of Genshin Impact decided to help him out there. The guy acts humble, explains that he just wanted to play a little trick on the brat. His words annoy Astor a little bit, but what's truly important is that now, the boy has officially become the master and wielder of the Seven Wings. In fact, he ushers the kid to look around. There are people who are already thinking about plotting Astor's demise or even stealing the power for himself, thinking that since the boy is young, they could use him somehow. The crest of the Seven Wings is no laughing matter, carrying its own weight outside of its wielder. Astor's fate is to be endlessly targeted by countless others now, which makes our boy shoot a skeptical glare at Earl Mays, to see if he's also one of those people. The man exposes his intentions, sharing that he's a director of a night academy, and loves to scout promising talent. The man at the back is no different. In other words, Prince Charming Hot Daddy Girl Dinner Wattpad. Professor over here is looking to enroll the boy someday. That concludes their meeting, leaving Astor with the impression that bro's quite the mystery. There's no telling if he's good or bad for now. Anyway, the boy's father comforts him and believes that it's finally time for them to head home, with Astor joking around that his mom is gonna faint the second she sees so many injuries on him. Let's go ahead and visit Roderick's side of things from the main house. A knight returns with the explanation that Dallas lost his life in the trial, but the knight commander is merely curious about the news of what went down with Highfried's child. The knight internalizes that the elders didn't even give a damn about Dallas, but he does have something great to report, confirming the existence of the Seven Wings within the child. To his shock, the knight commander already knew about this, knowing that the power struggle between the Elmheim is about to shift, turning over a new leaf. The knight urges that they at least take some action, but Roderick genuinely doesn't care, expressing that if something as minor as this could have done something to this family, then Elmheim would have been lost many years back. This bastard is also plotting to obtain the power of the Seven Wings for himself one day, so for now, letting the kid roam free is just fine, while he can amusingly watch the journey of the infant that he let go that day, whose real name is Ash, the child of the Seven Wings. 4 more years passed after the meeting with the elders. The Dorasil Knight Academy is accepting new applicants to register, and among them, one person arrives to steal the limelight. Some don't even believe him to be the boy from the rumors. But anyway, the receptionist hands him the form to confirm that there will be no responsibility on their side if the applicant gets injured. First, the boy is expected to sign, and then show his winged crest, as confirming one's magical prowess is necessary. The receptionist is just following his protocol until he reads the name Elmheim, snapping his senses back at the kid in front of him. Astor, now more muscular and taller, amusingly asks if he should really present his winged crest, because he's confident his own face should be enough reason to let him in. Walking among the others like the chosen one himself, Astor ignores the ramblings of a man who calls out to him, addressing him as the so-called young and mighty one. This is Bitter Smites, a man who hollers at the kid for having come to the wrong place, as this selection is given to the elite of the elite knights, reserved for royal candidates so to speak. Though this dude glazes the shitty ranking, Astor merely ignores and hardly finds an issue with it. The guy explains how everyone out here has already gone through so much trouble to get here just to retake this heinous exam over and over, just so that they could touch the path of the elites. And then there's him, a boy with a kitty sword acting like hot shit. The man emphasizes that they don't need anyone like him, so it's better for the kid to get lost right off. Well, everyone around can tell that Smites is just being his usual self, hazing at the newcomers like sophomores do to freshmen in universities. Though he's messing around, he seems to be messing with the wrong person this time, as this kid is rumored to be Aster from the Elmheim family of the Seven Wings. Hearing that, Smites' thick little head doesn't comprehend the situation he's in, but one more prominent figure arrives to welcome him in kind. It's the cousin Grion, who is pleased to see our boy, denoting how no one here cares or has heard of Aster's existence. That's why he's making it known to them all that they're cousins. To piss him off in return, our boy offers his condolences regarding Dallas. Now that is going to leave a mark, but the cousin acts tough and makes it seem like Dallas needed to die as a weakling. Grion never really cared about his shitty older brother who always acted arrogant, and though he has no wind of the Seven Wings shenanigans, one thing is clear: he urges Aster not to underestimate those in the main family, because here, no one will protect him. That little warning note draws the attention of the bystanders, who quickly realize that the Elmheim family members are going to run a fade check among the candidates. The main and branch families are involved, but the funniest part is Smites' reaction, who is wetting his pants and hesitating with his every word against Aster, inquiring if the black-haired kid is truly in Elmheim. Our boy laughs at the shift in his tone, offering his hand and kindly stating that he's fine with the name Aster instead. The scene cuts to the first exam venue, where the examiner is grateful for the participation of the students, making it clear that the Royal Knights are leagues above the local knights, capable of directly serving the king, protecting him, and honoring their blades to service him. They don't play with blunt swords, what they have is sheer fucking aura, and the battlegrounds for today will test if these guys are fit to serve the king. Our boy, who is looking broad as hell in this shot, only feels happy about making it all the way back here. Back when he was wingless, he couldn't even stand here in his previous life. But now, he has entered a world that he could only dream of reaching, a world where the man at the top of the mountain is his enemy, the Commander Knight of the Royal Knights, Roderick himself. His hatred for the fucker exceeds the bounds of this story. Our boy is dying to cut his head off, but first, he has to make sure that he gets past the annoying selection exam. The test starts off with the examiner preparing magical spears, before raining them down like missiles. Oh, and by freaking way, one of them literally kills the brute just behind Aster, which means failure is literal death. The first exam is called the Trial of the Turret. The person left standing will be the one considered the winner, and so spears rain down to cut these cowards while they're left questioning their defenses. At first, they try to run, but the spears are faster, impaling them one after the other. The second and wiser strategy is for them to gang up and protect each other, which helps them stay alive from the omnidirectional attack. Just like always, the ones who've had previous experience during this test know how to react better. The examiner argues that even that won't save the majority of the group, because the first test alone has a 30% survival rate. Ordinary strategies won't last these candidates long, but some interesting combatants are showing prominent results. Finally, Aster is standing there, menacingly farming aura with the spears not even touching him. The rest are questioning what the heck this kid's strategy is, or if he's already frozen in fear. Watching from afar, Grion is praying for our boy's demise, begging for him to get cut down and slaughtered here. And then comes the moment we've all been waiting for. Aster reaches for his gorgeous black sword, unsheathing it in a crimson fury, cutting each projectile all at once. It's a spiraling storm that doesn't even allow any projectile to touch him, with the awakened young master challenging the examiner to turn up the heat. The storm is enough to prove the point that this kid is a literal monster, stunning the examiner himself, who can't believe it the genius of the candidate to create an updraft, as he was the storm itself. At long last, the storm of mana comes to its fitting end, surprising the examiner as it draws all the attention to our boy. The examiner applauds the survivors, creepily encouraging them to look at the bodies of the ones who fell, as those standing have officially passed the first trial. However, without any amount of rest, the examiner intends to show them their next trial, leading them there right off. Smites and the others are overwhelmed in fear and shock, realizing that they're not even going to catch a break despite having faced literal hell. Aster taunts him for getting exhausted already, while the senior can't fathom how this guy isn't even fazed by the test, and has even drawn the attention of the examiner conducting the test, who thinks that the wielder of the 7 wings is a literal beast. The state of things is now clearer than ever. Grion recalls his conversation with a certain someone, who ordered him to ensure the boy doesn't become a royal knight for the sake of the main family. The examiner leads the candidates to the next trial grounds, explaining that they will all be granted identical swords for fairness. Some of them seem confused, making our boy wonder if something is different this time. Smites explains that the swords typically given aren't too different. His best guess is that they're all on guard because of the mana blade that Aster uses. In other words, fairness is being introduced specifically because bro has a weapon advantage above all. Interrupting the calm, Grion comes along to berate his cousin, taunting Smites for becoming Aster's lackey. The senior fights for his respect, but Grion continues to disrespect him by declaring him one of House Smite, making the guy a third-rate noble who is going to learn a painful lesson for allying himself with the wrong person. This threatening tone turns the senior into a bitch, who quickly addresses Grion with utmost respect, explaining that he's got nothing to do with Aster. The whole situation doesn't disappoint our boy, but it does go on to show that his allies can be snatched with ease, making this battleground a hostile setting. The examiner calls for their attention to explain the rules. This fight is going to be a siege battle in which they're to be divided 3 times, fighting for control in several camps. One camp is considered occupied when the contestants' team's flag is displayed on the flagpole, and occupying 2 camps or more will determine the victor. Actions taken to destroy the flags are prohibited, but aside from that, there are no limitations. The swords granted allow full permission to kill any and all enemies in their path, making it a deathly battle royale. With the explanations aside, the examiner divides each team. Grion takes Camp Red, another notable kid takes Yellow, while Smite and Aster have Blue to their name. With the smoke signal already blown, the trial is set in motion. There are a total of 3 flags distributed per camp, with the goal of seizing 2 camps. This practically means that only 1 camp will pass out of 3. But there's something more frightening that Aster is worried about. The rest are focused on the fact that they're going to be up against the main Elmheim family. Our boy doesn't get the source of their fear, while the senior explains that they're all terrified of the retaliation of the Elmheim family, especially since their opponent is none other than Grion, the young master of the main family line. If someone even dares to point their sword at him, they'll be defamed and their families will be slaughtered. That lingering fear is always around the corner. Aster questions if they're already giving up on this trial. The senior expresses that they can just wait for the next trial to come, as it's a wiser decision than to throw away their lives. These cowards know that someone possessing the 7 wings can't possibly understand the situation of weaklings. But this too is an interesting event. Aster is now going to play solo on behalf of the blue team, perfectly understanding that the Elmheim family's terror looms over all. These bastards are tyrants who don't expect a defiance. Grion being their main symbol is part of Roderick's son. It's natural for the weaklings to feel the way they do. Intervening in this family feud is a mess for any outsiders, so our boy can get behind that logic. Still, as he approaches the yellow house, he finds the environment rather quiet, making him wonder if these guys are trying to be quiet on purpose. The leader of the camp is impressed that Aster came all the way here without any backup, which means the situation is going exactly according to the expectations of a certain someone. This mysterious he draws Aster's attention, but what's more is how our boy is shocked that the yellow camp already tore down their own flag. The blonde whips up the flag in the air, challenging the boy as his opponent, while a red flag marks their camp, basically confirming that the red camp has allied itself with the yellow. At the back of it all, the mastermind is none other than Grion, who has gathered an army of both camps to teach his cousin a lesson in the way the Elmheims truly fight. The siege battle comprises 20 participants in 3 different teams. The goal is simple. A flag raised in the enemy base is a minimum requirement to pass. Currently facing this blonde, our boy is curious why he's given up on the yellow team, and why this guy is siding with the reds. The blonde expresses that he's merely formed an alliance with the Elmheim to eradicate him. By the way, this kid is the eldest son of the Nolan house, mostly noted as the founders of court swordsmanship. And yet this bro is literally called Christopher Nolan. Yes, that badass director has summoned himself in this manhwa in all his glory. Anyway, the first trial didn't show Nolan's talent all that much because of Aster's storm, but the only ones who made it past the challenge without breaking a sweat were these two. It shows the significance of Nolan for equaling the performance of a 7 wings bearer. Both of them are amazing in their own right, but only one can pass. Focusing on the fight itself, their clashes go back and forth. Our boy reminds the blonde that even if he forms an alliance, only one team will win. But that's exactly why the cunning Nolan decided for Elmheim to seize victory, teaming up with Grion to attack the base of blue. In other words, Smite and the others are in grave danger behind his back. Aster questions if this guy was also threatened by Grion in the same manner. Nolan doesn't really give a damn. He's simply following what's supposed to be their destined hierarchical path as knights, as this is the natural behavior of the nobles. His elegant swordsmanship stuns Aster himself, as pointed strikes are chipped at our boy's weapon. But here comes an interesting observation. It seems like the staff members intentionally handed Aster a faulty weapon. Everything is being plotted against him just to destroy Aster. Nolan's pointed strikes continue, emphasizing that he never liked the Elmheims from the get-go, especially a wannabe show-off like Aster, and saying this, bro actually rips apart our boy's sword. But that's not enough to take this dude down. Skinny Toji grabs part of his shattered blade and throws it full speed towards Nolan, who barely blocks it in time. That was a distraction just enough to allow our boy to escape from the fight. Aster can't risk continuing the duel as he's got someone more important to take care of. This gives the blonde some unearned arrogance, making him believe that perhaps he must have scared the kid off. But then his eyes glance towards the shattered piece of the sword, inspecting it properly. Nolan immediately realizes that the weapon is faulty, which means the Elmheims have interrupted once more to ruin his amusement. Back to Aster's base, he comes looking for Smite, but Grion is already here, having raised his flag at the top of the blue base as well. The arrogant young master of the main family thinks that maybe the blonde was bested in battle, but not that it matters or anything, since they've already secured their fancy third base. It's a total and utter conquest. But instead of listening to this loser's rambling, our boy questions Grion what became of his trusted comrades. This rains on the guy's parade, while a blade points at Aster's back, and what do you know, it's Smite again who has betrayed him a second time. The senior is feeling massive guilt for doing this, yet he has to for the sake of protecting his own skin. Grion berates the blue team, who immediately surrendered without even showing a hint of resistance, though he's impressed that even the brain-dead commoner monkeys seem to know what side to choose in times of conflict. Our boy questions if they're so confident at defeating him through numbers, but Grion assures him that they've actually already won, as the siege battle is decided by 2 or more bases captured by the end of the exam. So even if our boy ran as fast as he could to raise the flags at each base, he couldn't protect either of them, because the moment Aster heads to another base, his men will go and retake the base he already captured. This means the 2 bases will always remain consistent, making it a desperate and endless loop. I have to say that even for a shitty villain, this is quite the intelligent strategy. But of course our boy has a different answer with his brute force approach of taking down every single one of them. Aster reaching for his blade terrifies Smite and the others, but the young master of the main family calls out our boy's bluff, already knowing that the sword he wields is a fake. Despite the brilliance of the 7 wings, without a weapon, none of it matters. This begs the question if Jon Snow over here wants to take on the whole army without even a sword to his name. Oh, but you see, Aster is the embodiment of aura, unsheathing his shattered blade which stuns Smite, before tossing it aside. This makes Grion believe that he's already won the fight, but the moment this shattered sword hits the ground, the young master locks eyes for his next move. First, the young master disarms with flattery, praising Grion for his excellent strategy, but the moment Bro's sword hits the ground, this man dashes with super speed, kicking the crap out of Smite and launching him several feet apart. Thanks to this, he catches the sword that was flung up in the air, and with it, unleashes a wave of mana to strike down his enemies. All of this happened in mere moments, much to the astonishment of Grion, while our boy points his blade to his enemy, highlighting that the only mistake in his plans was to confront him directly, which is going to become the main reason behind Bro's defeat. Cousin over here is fretting and calling him a monster, while Aster powers magic into his feet, spiraling himself upwards like a rocket to cut their distance down. Before Grion could even flee like a pathetic loser, Bro gets shredded with a single cut that destroys his sword. This reminds Aster of the first time he ever flew in the sky, but right now his cousin's frightened expression is a sight to see, as he pleads for mercy, while Aster prepares to descend his sword, satisfied as he obliterates the entire wall. Those watching among Smite and the others question the kind of fighting style this even is, but when the dust settles, they see Aster's silhouette dragging the body of his cousin, reminding me of that one Star Wars scene of Luke Skywalker dragging out Darth Vader. The body is put up for display for everyone to see. Grion questions why his loyal men are standing there watching him getting steamrolled instead of jumping his ass. Considering it an official order from House Elmheim, Smite and the others bolt right into battle, while Aster begins to wonder if they're truly so afraid of being obliterated by the main family. For the weaklings like Smite's, they're just third-rate nobles who would disappear like nothing. He saw his own father beg before the Elmheims. They were weaklings in front of them, and so they lived only to please the ones above them. Of course, someone like Aster could never understand their situation, as he possesses everything in his might. A little annoyed at first, the young master begins to laugh. This whole thing reminds him of conversation against his sister Kudo, who drilled into his head that he could never understand the feelings of those without power. That's why Aster totally understands his position as one of being privileged in every manner. It's also why he's willing to do something of his own volition, declaring that his enemy is the main house Elmheim itself, and that if these cowards can't change their destiny, he'll be the one to do it in their stead, to eliminate the tyrannical rule of this wretched family. His declaration moves the hearts of all those in the arena. Grion can't even fathom what the hell his cousin is mouthing right now. Smite reminds Aster to hear his own words for God's sake, but Aster knows what he wants. He has officially declared war against the main family, refusing to suck up to the rule of the Elmheim, as what awaits these weaklings is nothing but a miserable, pathetic ending too. He tries to reason with them that the only way out is to fight their way through, and thanks to his 7 wings, they have the ability to do just that. These guys merely have to make a choice. It's either going to be Aster or Grion they'll side with. A dilemma on which these commoners and low-rate nobles have to decide. Even in a shitty position with a sword aimed at his neck, the bratty cousin tries to use his family's influence to his advantage, emphasizing that he'll remember their names if they dared to betray him even once. The worst will come their way, instilling them with fear once more. Smite is the most pressured, breaking in sheer sweat as he eventually makes a choice. His sword hits the ground, and he marches forth to side with Aster. As long as he can crush the main family, he's willing to support the movement. Like a proper leader, our boy ensures that he'll keep his promises. This pushes Grion to raise the blue flag, declaring his house's alliance with Aster of Elmheim. This announcement stuns all the others, who can't believe that someone could side with our boy, destroying Grion's plans. As for the cousin, Bro's literally seething with Frieza and Geto Suguru's level of hatred by calling them a bunch of monkeys. Smite roars at the commoners who are standing around doing nothing, when they could very well seize the opportunity of their lives here and ally themselves with the power of the Seven Wings. Thanks to him joining the team, Aster has the confidence that he no longer will have to worry about planting flags all alone, killing the strategy that Grion cropped up for him. At the same time, not even this is enough, at least not for his goals, as he intends to overwhelm and topple House Elmheim, requiring far more allies. One of the members of Camp Red asks if the young master is all right, only to get smacked away with pure hostility. This kid is genuinely pissed off, unable to comprehend how someone could be swayed by a member of the branching family. Letting him free like this will result in Grion's own ruin, as his reputation will be destroyed in front of the main family. Refusing to go down like his shitty brother, Grion activates his rest in a final effort. Too bad though, the final piece is here already. Nolan arrives to taunt the Elmheim young master for being such a pathetic sight right now. Having him by his side, Grion commands the Bonde to quickly dispose of Aster. His hopes have returned with this guy's arrival. Despite not wielding 7 whole wings like Aster, the kid's swordsmanship is unparalleled, even stronger than Aster in terms of skill. Even though this is supposed to even the odds, in a twist of fate, Nolan tosses the shitty red flag over at Grion's face, explaining that he's here to return the flag. Even though he wanted to ally himself with Elmheim, it's clear now that Aster's cousin plays petty tricks, which goes against Nolan's personal chivalrous code, thereby terminating their alliance. Yet another shock to the system. Everyone now understands that even someone like Nolan is refusing the will of Elmheim, which brings them all back to square one. Their unfinished match from earlier is still pending. Nolan clearly doesn't want things to just wrap up smoothly without having concluded this match, so he draws his blade for the sake of his family, facing against the boy who wields the 7 wings. The fight is set in stone. Nolan lunges with tremendous speeds, using his sword like a spear to determine the superior one among them, but Aster doesn't want any interruptions like that for the meantime, merely responding with his own intensity, pinning Nolan's blade onto the ground like it's not even a threat. Shocked, the blonde questions what he means to say, as only one team is destined to pass the exam, so it's either one of them who is going to progress on their path to become royal knights. After gaining some distance, Nolan believes that this is the only way to settle things between them. However, the young master has a different idea, highlighting that he wants someone as talented as Nolan to also become a royal knight. And though the idea seems attractive, it's ridiculous in this setup. Now Aster understands that he didn't just ignite the spirit of all the people here just to give up on them because of different team settings. In fact, Bro seems to have a strategy that is going to ensure every single one of them passes. This stuns Grion and Nolan. Even Smite can't fathom the kind of strategy Bro is about to cook to turn everything around. The young master explains that in order to achieve this outcome, he needs total cooperation from each camp, which means his first hurdle is going up to the shitty cousin, looking like a mutt right now, and condescendingly offering him a hand. Shortly after, an interesting change occurs. Each camp is united with all 3 flags tied up, offending the examiner for their manipulation of the rules. Aster counter-argues that the goal from the beginning was to capture 2 or more camps. The loophole exists because they were never forbidden from putting 2 flags on one camp. That's why they all collectively formed an alliance, occupying each territory at once. It's a genius strat that plays against the system of the exam, though the examiner roars that this disrespects the content of the exam itself. Smite fears that their plan has failed. Even Grion doesn't have any faith in this strategy, as the examiner expresses full aggression against the daring boy, who basically ended up shaking hands with his enemies and concluded the setting. Aster calmly fires back, stating that he would do such a thing if he judged the enemy to be more valuable alive, pissing off the examiner further, who roars that a knight is a sword meant to cut down, not to command others. The young master understands this reaction, but also counters that they technically didn't break any rules, so if they're disqualified on behalf of someone's ego, that means this examiner will fail in his duty. This locks him in a stalemate, but more importantly, our boy whispers that failing everyone here would mean to earn the anger of Elmheim, who won't sit around for this kind of upset. And that's a checkmate right there, sealing the deal. What happened next is that the examiner confirmed the situation with the higher-ups, causing them to wait for well over an hour. Some of them are worried about the outcome, questioning if they're really about to get disqualified together. Aster doesn't know anymore. The young master merely offered a logical proposal, but sitting far from him is Grion, who appears really upset. The third-rate noble whispers his shock. It's crazy that Grion ended up cooperating after all, making him wonder what he said to the guy. Our boy smirks, assuring him that it wasn't anything noteworthy. And finally, the examiner arrives with his decision, expressing that Principal Moomer himself has come to announce the results of the exam. Principal Memmer's presence shocks all the candidates. Smite points out how ordinary this old man looks compared to the others, while Aster urges him to at least pay respect. Turning to the boy of the 7 wings, Mimor taunts the kid for cornering them into making a very difficult decision. This number of candidates is historic for the second trial, and though there were several suggestions of a re-examination via the other directors, he ultimately decided to accept Aster's terms. Our boy is confused at first, until the man's face curves up into a smile as he congratulates them all for passing successfully, wishing them well so that they could keep working hard and prove that they were right to enroll each of them. Thanks to that, the whole batch is welcomed into the Dorasol Royal Knight Academy, leading them into the fancy dorm rooms in which Smite is loving the new treatment. It's the kind of life he's always dreamed of, all because of their lord and savior Aster. Bro is casually chilling while the others are shocked that they all managed to get in. This increases his influence and loyalty among the commoners. Also, can we talk about how Nolan's physique looks aesthetic as hell? Bro's like a great god out here, who sneers at these imbeciles for immediately switching over to Aster's side like that. Bro also shares no intentions of thanking our boy, even though Smite humbles Bro's ego by expressing that he lost to Aster. Our boy doesn't really care for the most part. He's concerned with the fight against the Elmheims, as well as sharing the center stage with the others as candidates. Victories like these remind him of the fact that there's a movement rising to turn against the mainline family when the time is right. The rebellion begins from these walls inside. Now, as for Bro's older sisters, they've graduated already. Alphen is still here since she enrolled just a year prior, so she'll quickly be an immediate ally for him. Training classes officially start tomorrow. Aster gets out of the pool to acclimate himself to the setting of the academy before he can start things through. But interestingly, he turns around to find his loyal servants following his every step. Bro is creeped the fudge out when he notices them stalking like this. These idiots are now a bunch of dogs who want to worship him like some kind of prophet, thinking that my guy is the embodiment of good luck. Smite and the others even begin to pray in front of him, while Nolan is realizing how annoyingly long this year is going to be. The scene cuts to Grion's meeting with his mother. The woman who tasked the boy to crush Aster is now clearly disappointed with the outcome, and instead it's the Elmheims who are on the back foot now. Helen Elmheim is a bad bitch out for blood, unable to accept that this bastard just let the Viscount's son ignite a damn movement against them. The whole family was insulted while Grion's impudent ass was watching and did nothing to stop it. Reasoning with his psychotic mother, Grion expresses that he'll live up to her expectations next time, only to get jabbed in the throat by one of his sisters, who exclaim that trash like him won't have a next time. Garbage like Grion don't deserve to be among the Elmheim, as that is the opinion of Lilan, another psycho baddie daughter who wants to feed her brother's flesh to monsters for letting them get embarrassed like that. They compare him no differently than Dallas, and though this dude begs for mercy from his own sister, my guy gets walloped by an agonizing kick to the gut once more. The beating continues endlessly, until it's drilled into Grion's head that everything is Aster's fault. He's the one who ruined everything. Back then, our boy cut out a clear and fair proposal for them, expressing that if the great elder of their family found out about Grion getting knocked out and humiliated, he'd be slaughtered like cattle. And that's why, in order to escape a dog-like death just the way his brother went out, Grion decided to heed his words. Aster had already seen Dallas's body ripped to shreds, and instilled the fear of death into this man's soul. The beatdown by Lillian came to a stop with one of the older brothers swooping in. Julius thinks it's already quite the mess that their little brother is whining like a dog right now. Also, here's the shittiest part. Julius has Alphen hanging around his lap like a pet, shoving her down as if she were just a toy to him. One thing is for clear in their mother's eyes, the image and reputation of the Elmheim family is beginning to crack and shake because of the existence of the 7 Wings, which is why their next orders are to go and remind everyone that their reputation isn't just for show. The siblings are ecstatic to hear those words, prepared to show the brutality their family promises. Classes officially take off with the knights being trained under the banner of the excellent Royal Knights. Royal Knights are warriors who transcend every other in combat, and might, the best of the best fighters of their caliber, are among this group. Any person who aspires to reach the ranks of the elite knight has to be special as well. Smite is seen training but his blade can't even cut down a board properly. By the way, The candidates are divided into 6 different grade levels, and each student is prescribed a curriculum in accordance with their talent. Long story short, the more skill one has, the more opportunities they'll gain to learn advanced techniques. As for the people who can merely only swing a sword, they're considered third class. Even Grion is out here struggling for his life. Second-rate warriors are those who can manipulate magical power at an intense rate. Nolan is having a very confident hold of his training so far. Finally, the ones who obsess over mastery in both sword and magic are classified as first-rate. The examiner refuses to entertain any warriors beyond the third-rate level, and in order to learn the top-level techniques, one has to keep proving their worth and power. By the way, while Bro is out here giving the speech, our boy in the background is literally cutting dimensions with a single mana blade. The rest of them are starstruck. Aster concludes the cut, chopping off the test board like it's no big deal. This is the level that the others are to aspire after, except the ordinary warriors can't even fathom what it means to reach this level. Mimor watches in shock and awe, the power of the 7 wings obliterating a magical iron pillar, which has the density of a golem, making it clear to everyone that this boy is not a joke. The hidden potential residing in him is in obscene levels, because if Aster doesn't continue to hone his skills further, he'll be swallowed by the dragons of this academy, the ones like Julius Elmheim, for example. As for the grading criteria, Smite finds it annoying that they're being tested after passing 2, proving how obsessed this academy is with the concept of meritocracy. Nolan and our boy are the only people who ended up at the 4th grade curriculum level instead of the bottom-most 6th, while Smite is leagues apart from them. The thing is, Aster shares that only 2nd grade royal warriors or higher become proper royal knights, so he urges his friends to catch up soon. Smite calls his boss a taskmaster, which annoys our boy a little. The commoner questions if the young master has forgotten about his promises of crushing House Elmheim, as several of their comrades rely on those words, hinging on the idea that Aster will forever change the way the world works. It's the first time they've ever had that confidence, so it's important that he doesn't let them down. Smite is already championing the demise of the Elmheims, but once more, Aster teases him to try and get stronger for that purpose. Yet deep down, he is compelled by his greater purpose of eliminating the main family once he becomes absurdly powerful himself. But before all that world domination talk, it's time for some snacks, since they've just done some heavy-duty training. Interestingly, there's quite the commotion at the cafeteria. It seems like there's some kind of trouble here. Savoring his food is Julius, who welcomes Aster at last, denoting him as his brother. Sitting just next to him is Lillian, and at their feet is someone our boy still hasn't gotten a glance of. The blonde is the 2nd son of the main family, also 2nd in line for the succession game. His sister Lillian is just as ruthless, accompanying him. The both of them combined are notoriously known as the tyrant sibling, the most torturous pairing in the whole family. This complicates our boy's journey, because these two are also attending the academy. Lillian catches an interest in our boy, praising him for having a cute face unlike Grion, who is LARPing at their feet, muffling his voice, not even being able to speak. They've put on a mask on his face. This is called the Iron Shackle. Aster explains that it's a torture mechanism for the family to correct the failures of its inferiors. It's an item that our boy is well familiar with in his previous life. Julius, on the other hand, is pretty impressed with his knowledge so far. At the same time, he pitifully stares down at Grion, who only carries the family's name, and yet ends up a disgraceful 6th grader in ranking. A truly pathetic sight. But fear not, Julius is just trying to be a kind older brother, and encouraging his dear little brother to try harder through this punishment. By the way, the rest of his men are no different. All of them are bound by the iron shackles. Their lives are dependent on whether they succeed or fail, which is the only way for them to receive nutrients. Failure means getting cut off from that supply and then death. Smite questions what is wrong with these people. They're all wearing the same stupid mask. Julius makes fun of them as a bunch of hungry beasts, the seniors of the academy. Among them, he encourages a certain someone to quickly show her face without being shy, and that person is a girl who walks up for their little reunion. The moment Aster glances at her red hair, Bro is traumatized by the state of Alphen, who has been reduced to a literal slave also under Julius's tyrannical command. The older brother has pushed the right buttons to get our boy provoked, while Alphen can't even bear to look at our boy in her current condition. Aster is royally pissed off and unsheathes his blade, roaring at the brother and questioning what the hell he did to her. Throwing around a bundle of iron shackles, Julius exclaims that he's actually prepared a whole bunch of these to welcome the freshmen in kind. Since Aster has joined the academy, the older brother of the Elmheim is dying to savor a welcome party with them together. The men already working under Julius are ordered to recruit these newbies under the new class of the Iron Lead. The only way for any of them to be promised a decent meal is to make sure these guys are on their faces as they're dragged back. The seniors of the academy quickly unsheathe their blades, attacking the newbies who are far less experienced. Smite is having trouble facing them, Even someone like Nolan admits that each one of these is minimally a 4th grade or even stronger than that. Though Smite had ambitions of facing Elmheim, bro wasn't expecting to meet the final boss on day 1. They can't manage the power gap between them. Turning to our boy, he asks for advice, but Aster is out for blood right now. This man's sword is bleeding red mana as he cuts anyone who steps in front of him out of sheer fucking intensity alone. Tending to Julius, he inquires what his big brother wants to make of this whole situation. The older brother keeps his sarcasm up high, expressing that he's practically showing some goodwill, since his classmates don't really have any talent to show. The weaklings who passed the exam simply because of Aster's influence have to be punished. They need to be humble and reminded that they did not win on merit. In order to make sure the Elmheims aren't disgraced, Julius intends to wipe the smog off their faces. And since he's the leader, he won't expect any weaklings among his group. So that's why he's doing things the Elmheim way. But after that long-winded explanation, our boy straight up says that he doesn't give a damn. What he really cares about, as his sword burns with fury, is that the bastard quickly removes the mask from his sister's face. Saying so, Aster jumps up to cut him down. But to his own shock, it's Alphen who intervenes and stops him from fighting. She doesn't even see him as her own right now, unleashing powerful swings against him. As Julius emphasizes that our boy's sister willingly gave herself up after all. It's clear that she's been brainwashed. Lillian is amazed with her brother's capacity for evil. Aster, on the other hand, finally realizes why his sister wasn't in contact with them ever since she entered the academy. While he's unsure of what happened, right now, my dude is going all out just to make sure that Alphen's senses return back to normal. But to his shock, she aggressively pushes him back, refusing to be saved. Getting lost in his emotions, Nolan steps up to finish our boy's job by directly targeting Julius's head. He points his blade at the older Elmheim, who is even worse than Grion in his methods. The fact that someone like this guy calls himself a blonde is despicable. So Nolan demands that he draw his sword at once, as he approaches full speed to cut down the siblings with his sword. But that's the thing. These siblings aren't just for show, you know. Julius catches the blade with his raw fucking hands, questioning if studying the sword makes one a better knight than the others. With his unending fury, he looms over at Nolan, igniting his flames that reach all the way over to his body. This intense heat is practically torture to endure while being gripped by Julius, who calls himself the strongest and most deserving of the knight title. Saying so, he kicks Nolan like a football and sends bro flying. Oh, and by the way, that wasn't some insignificant burn either. This man literally got half his face scorched off alongside his arm. These burns are grueling. Smite comes to the rescue, but Lillian is ecstatic to finish the job by trampling over the pride of these weaklings. That's why she's prepared the helmet as a special present for the pet, reserved for Nolan. But of course she has no regard for Smite's weak ass either. Julius understands that being weak is a sin. The ability to do anything is a privilege of the strong. And though our boy used his influence to gather allies, they're currently being demolished and slammed with helmets. That is the Elmheim way, where the strength devours all. It makes the older brother question what Aster intends to do next, what side he'll take, and completely going on a rampage, our boy launches full speed against Julius, who casually dodges the sword swing like it's no big deal. What's more is that he grabs our boy by the neck, using the same exact technique that he did against Nolan to burn him to the ground. And yes, I'm starting to realize that this story is actually peak because even the side villains are really strong. Smite worries for their boss, while Julius is supremely disappointed by the might of the Seven Wings, calling Aster a letdown at best. As he's burning, our boy prepares his sword, reminding the bastard not to get cocky just because he parried a single attack. With that confidence, this time Aster unleashes the mana storm to quell the flames that Julius created, deterring all his magical power. The next swing is aimed right for Julius's neck, who is pushed back by a spiraling vortex of both crimson and flame magic. Now that Aster's free from the hold, he wonders if his dear older brother can continue yapping on what he was saying earlier. Something about the idea of strength toppling the trash who should always keep their mouths shut. Talk about shit talk at its finest, badass protagonist right here, people. Smite can't believe what he just saw. This man literally freaking laid out the top dog in the academy. But Aster understands that this fight is far from over. Julius gets up exclaiming how badly that last attack hurt him. But in truth, bro literally looks fine as he dusts himself off, taunting him for not even being able to scratch the dude's crest. Smite realizes that nothing even happened. Lillian smiles in jest, as if she was never even worried in the first place. She only makes fun of his ass to get countered after talking smack. But Julius is pretty chill about the whole thing, and expresses that he's got feelings too. The same chillness goes out the damn window because this man blazes up in fury for being called a piece of trash by Aster. He points his fiery blade at the Viscount's son, calling him cocky for getting arrogant in their little game. This time, however, Julius is bringing out the real heat, assuring Aster that this will be his grave. Our boy isn't the least bit intimidated and advises him to just quit senselessly threatening him, and that instead of talking shit, he should start attacking. Like I said, badass protagonist right here. Anyway, the blonde pulls back his sword to engage, and right as their duel is about to begin for round 2, a certain director comes along, stopping them from engaging in senseless combat. It's Earl Mays, who reminds these idiots that the cafeteria is for eating food and not straight up destroying the whole place down. Even as a director, he can't sit around watching their little mess continue on. But Julius thinks he owns the place, ordering even the director to stay out of their business. Earl Mays doesn't even let the insult affect him. Bro taunts Julius back for being a first-grade top candidate and still getting worked up over an inferior person, which should harm his reputation. So he comes to Astor's aid and makes it seem like it's him getting help, causing Julius to finally put away his sword and dispel his anger just this once. Bro turns around and orders his men to return since their little welcome party's all wrapped up. The situation isn't concluded according to Astor's desires, who wants the fight to go on, but the director apologizes to him and begs him to stop for the meantime. What really bothers our boy is his sister siding with his enemy. Astor calls out to Alphen, who returns the meanest side-eye to her brother before moving on like he's a nuisance. It really saddens our boy to see her get treated like that, and in the next scene, Astor's group discuss the reality check they faced going up against the Elmheims, to the point my boy Nolan got the Todoroki treatment. Even a few of their own comrades were dragged by the seniors because of the masks, so the next move is undecided. First off, Astor is annoyed that Earl Mays, the director, let things devolve to such an extent. His assistant shouts at the bastard for not even showing basic respect to the same man who stopped the fight. But this chill guy is okay with a little boldness. He reminds Astor that they go way back in their relationship. Back when the dude was first summoned to the main house, the only person who actually supported him was this man. It's undecided whether or not this dude is a friend or enemy, or what his thought process looks like. But Smite is confused that if this guy is truly a director, then how the hell are the Elmheims dominating the whole academy like this? To make things fervently clear, Earl Mays emphasizes that he also belongs to the same house. He doesn't share any involvement with family messes unless absolutely necessary. Astor finds it a huge deal that he's not doing a damn thing about Julius forcing kids to wear these torturous masks. But you see, this has always been the state of the academy in the first place. It centers around meritocracy. Any method that forces growth and evolution of the inferiors is considered fine. For example, the kids under the command of Julius actually do end with their progress shooting way up, their grades excel, and even the principal is okay with it. This confirms to our boy that he's all alone in this fight, that he can't rely on the higher-ups at all. Earl Mays understands that the boy is being reckless and intends to just march inside the enemy base for an attack. However, there's one big problem with said approach. Earl Mays shares that each step the boy takes is closely being watched by the main family. They're waiting for him to slip up even just a little, so that they can force his expulsion. But even that excuse isn't enough to stop our boy from doing the right thing and saving his friends. It's not even out of his desire to exact justice, but the fact that the iron shackle corrodes the soul of the human wearing it. It makes you a literal slave, steals your words, takes away one's self-respect, and even the will to rebel. That makes those people into puppets. It's a horrific fate that he wouldn't wish upon anyone, while Earl Mays is shocked that he knows the experience so well, as if Astor himself has seen it somewhere. Our boy vaguely hints that he's seen something horrific like that, and he refuses to let his friends go out in the same way, which makes the director wonder what he's about to do next. The youngest son of the Viscount clarifies that he isn't planning on getting expelled. Peaceful resolutions are far better, which surprises Earl Mays, as it hints at an interesting plan. Wielding the iron shackle, our boy reminds the director that he too has his own way of fighting, or his own Naruto's ninja way. 3 days flew by in a blink of an eye. Smite and the others are training relentlessly in hardcore combat. Nolan is shockingly treated back to full health without even hints of any scarring. The guy doesn't want to rest and intends to go full speed on the curriculum from the start. And get this, he calls it a mere scratch. Smite is practically dying out here, but the person they should be worried about the most is the man in front of them, Astor, who is bolting ahead and probably gone insane for wearing that shackle. You see, 3 days back, our boy directly went up to find Julius despite their previous duel. The siblings didn't want to forgive him for their last encounter, but the fact that he's here to make a deal was quite something. Gulping down his wine, the older brother sneers at him, refusing to let his words affect our boy. Astor explains that he wants his sister and his friends back, and in exchange, he will allow them to put the shackle on him instead. That's the only condition, a condition that literally mortifies Alphen, who thinks he's gone crazy. Our boy furthers that a rebellion is on the loose too. It's the fastest way for the family to tame the main rebel, an amazing deal. But Lillian is shocked that he's offering himself to become a pet, making her wonder if he's into masochism of some kind. Julius understood that Astor indeed stood as an obstacle. The directors would love to see him get humbled, but he's quite shocked that the guy is offering himself up and obeying like this. Aster assures him that he's got no ulterior motives. The mask is also locked with a magical inscription. Only they have the key for it. In other words, they will be capable of killing him whenever needed. But also, our boy cleverly taunts Julius if he's so afraid of being unable to brainwash him. That little remark alone causes him to flare up and melt the bottle in his hand. So Julius takes the bet, agreeing with one final addition. He wants 10 whole days of Aster wearing the shackle, without even receiving a hint of water or food. And if the boy is still alive by that time, he can set them all free. It's a ridiculous deal that even Alphen wants him to refuse. It's the surest way to get our boy killed. But Aster accepted the condition, knowing that the shackle would corrode his soul. It's always been a tool of the family, but he can't let someone like Alphen be corrupted by it. The girl is the most fragile among their family, yet also the strongest in her resolve. Someone like her couldn't resist the shackle and looks at him with pity. Aster assures his sister that he'll break the chains, while Lillian lovingly comes around to imbue her energy into the tool. Our boy enjoys every second of it. The examiner berates them for crippling down and trying to take breaks out here in the middle of the training session. Even Grion is beginning to question why he's the one to get punishment like all the others. Smite points out the ruthlessness of the instructors who don't treat them any differently just because of their masks, but Nolan is there to rub salt on the wounds on his ass, calling it an act of karma. The shocking part is how even after several days, my man Aster is blitzing around full of energy, making them all suspect that he's some kind of monster with unending stamina. No one should be able to withstand several days without food or water. An entire week would literally cripple them. Yet, Aster has been dueling back to back, undergoing rigorous amounts of training. Nolan suspects that his friend has already reached his limit, but there is one rumor that he's reminded of at this moment. You see, before the boy was taken by the Viscount, they knew that the child made his own path crawling for several miles alone, even past a mountain fully buried in snow. That's right, bro was doing badass shit right after his birth out here. That's why his life force is exceptional compared to the average human. Even then, it seems like Aster is keeping this whole facade up as a bluff. By the way, Lillian has a collection of her pets in the dungeon, bringing them food and water to keep them alive. First, she unlocks their masks and then serves them a single cup of water, alongside a shitty scrap of cheese. This is all they'll get for their performance. Even Grion thinks this is far too much, that this food won't do them any good. Bro shouldn't have happened because his sister ended up smashing the pudge of cheese right before his eyes, understanding that he never wanted it in the first place. She reminds them not to suffer the same fate as the boy in the corner. Aster's the only one among them suffering a harsher fate, who can't eat or drink anything. Julius enjoys their suffering, even urging Alphen to go up ahead and cheer on her brother. But with her sorry state right now, it's not like she can face him either. It's true that she's in a really terrible position, not knowing what she should do to help him. But the part bothering Julius the most is how this dude is a literal machine who refuses to go down. The kid hasn't even shown a bit of resistance and still does fine, begging the question if he's gonna tank it for the whole 10 days to come. Be that as it may, the blonde is ecstatic to see how long Aster can keep his arrogance up, and that he'll tear the confidence in his eyes soon enough. Meanwhile, our boy is just sitting there, ready to throw hands the second he escapes this damn mask. Powering mana into one's blade creates a razor-sharp pulsing edge, increasing the power of the weapon, and channeling the same through one's body creates an armor and enhanced-like state. In other words, mana is quite flexible in its application, capable of being manipulated. For example, using it in your legs boosts one's speed faster than a horse. Other times, perception can be sharpened to detect an enemy. Finally, an overwhelming surge of it can act as a trump card to turn the very tide of the battle, like Aster does right now by manipulating the wind and maneuvering himself up in the skies. The flankers got flanked as he descends with a critical crushing blow, knocking the wind out of both. In the 4th grade curriculum, they're all expected to seize mastery over specialized mana manipulation. The usage of swords during this period is restricted, and for anyone possessing a crest, killing creatures is easy without even using a blade, demonstrated by this bastard of an examiner killing a bird with a finger blast. Aster, right now, is demonstrating that without a sword usage, 7 whole days have passed since he embraced this Iron Lead lifestyle, and a few days have passed since the hellish training period. Right now, he's gotten quite the hand of mana manipulation in normal combat. 3 more days are left until the promised day, and if he can endure till then, his sister and the others will be freed. However, even our boy understands that passively chilling won't help his case. The thing about Julius is that he didn't even use a sword, and yet he was stupidly powerful. The guy didn't even expose his full abilities back then. Aster's opponent is a 1st grade, a top-notch combatant. That's why he can't wait around in a place like this. And despite being completely exhausted, he needs to grasp some kind of knowledge or advantage to bring him victory. But then the limits of his own body catch up to him. As he topples to the ground, the dizziness and the weakness all come together, as a figure looms over him, questioning if the boy has hit his limit at last. Nolan checks his head and realizes that Astor's got a feverish condition, even though he couldn't keep up the confidence forever. Earl Mays feared that Astor would die out in this mission. That's why he tasked Nolan to make sure to take care of him in case something like this happened. Doing the right thing, Nolan urges to fetch his sword and crack this stupid shackle at once. But instead of letting him leave, our boy grabs his arm, refusing to crack under the pressure. Sure, death hovers over him, but his gaze of pure agony and determination is practically screaming, "Don't ruin this for me, I need to save my sister." Though Nolan can't comprehend those words, he understands the situation. However, these others around them, they're not going to be playing fair at all. Lillian has grouped up her men to taunt her brother, who is finally at the brink of breaking down. She mocks him for looking like an undead who deserves to be killed if he's wandering around like that. Nolan fires back, questioning what she's doing, intervening with the 4th grade training when she's a 2nd grader herself. But the thing is, she's not going to be fighting at all. She's just brought her own companions for a simple class visit. The instructor didn't mind either. Darting up at a tree branch for a clearer view, Lillian excitedly awaits the sight of Astor getting on his knees, begging for mercy when he finally cracks. She's just here to enjoy the show, and so she commands her men to kill them to their heart's content. The strategy is simple. They want to end his life before Astor even has a chance to meet the deadline date. He's just alarmed at how bold their approach is. Blocking one of the attacks, Nolan covers from him from behind. The restriction of knights not able to wield their swords is most annoying, making it a battle of fists, limiting their output. Now, one trump card that Astor has up his arsenal can resolve the situation, but he hasn't quite thought of it yet. Even Lillian knows that these sword warriors are weakest without their weapons. She's enjoying the fun watching Astor exhaust himself, bringing him into a sorry state of becoming miserable by the minute. Nolan is operating just fine, but Astor's senses are dulled, and he doesn't even notice a guy charging at him from behind. The dude tackles him with full ferocity, headbutting so freaking hard that it spills out blood straight from the mask, crashing him into the tree. Our boy is genuinely getting his shit rocked right now, and it's not a good look. Nolan questions if bro is dead, but Lillian doesn't want the fun to end so soon, desiring to make him her pet later. All she cares about is crippling him to the point he's nearly dead. In the final few moments of his power, the unconscious Astor regains his senses suddenly, before releasing windcutter-type blades, slashing and ripping apart the bastard in front of him. This new technique wipes the confidence Lillian had earlier, and it seems like bro is capable of cutting people like sushi with his mana slashes alone. You made it this far? If you enjoyed it, leaving a like, subscribing, or sharing the video really helps support the channel and the work I put into these recaps. I truly appreciate it.